If I didn't have my own publishing company, had the song not already been a hit, it might have been different. But I couldn't give somebody half of a song that had already been #1, and that was, was evident, had already proved itself.
Dolly Parton is known around the world as America's sweetheart and country music's most beloved star. For decades, she has charmed audiences with her beautiful voice, kind heart, and sparkling personality. But behind that famous smile and cheerful, public image lies a more complex story filled with professional tensions, broken friendships, and conflicts that most people have never heard about. While Dolly has always tried to stay above drama and maintain her reputation as the queen of kindness, there have been several people in the music industry who tested her patience and pushed her to her limits. These weren't just simple disagreements, they were serious conflicts that caused real hurt and changed important relationships in her life. To understand these conflicts, you first need to know Dolly's background and how she became the star she is today. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19, 1946, in a tiny one-room cabin in Locust Ridge, Tennessee. She grew up in a loving but very poor family with 11 brothers and sisters, all crowded into a simple mountain home. Her father, Lee Parton, was a hard-working farmer and construction worker who couldn't read or write. But Dolly always said he was the smartest man she ever knew. Her mother, Avie Lee, had 12 children before she turned 35 and passed on her deep love for storytelling, its music and faith to Dolly. Music wasn't just a hobby for the Parton family. It was how they survived and found joy. Despite their poverty, the family didn't have money for entertainment, so the children learned to sing in church and harmonize together on the porch. Dolly's extraordinary voice was noticed early, and by age 10, she was already performing on local radio and television, shows in nearby Knoxville. Soon, she was performing at the famous Grand Ole Opry. The day after graduating high school in 1964, Dolly packed her belongings and headed to Nashville with no money or connections, just raw talent and dreams. Bigger than the Smoky Mountains she left behind. She started by writing songs for other artists, but she didn't want to stay in the background. She wanted to be the star herself. Her first country hit came in 1967 with a song called Dumb Blonde, which cleverly told the world she wasn't just a pretty face, but a smart and talented woman. Everything changed for Dolly when she joined the Porter Wagoner Show in 1967. Millions of people saw her on television every week, and her duets with Porter became instant hits. People loved their chemistry, their beautiful harmonies, and Dolly's magnetic personality. By the early 1970s, she launched her solo career and became unstoppable. She released Jolene in 1973, which became an anthem, and then came I Will Always Love You, which became a global hit. Years later, Whitney Houston's version would make it one of the biggest songs of all time, but Dolly still owned the rights and made millions from that one song. By the 1980s, Dolly was everywhere, in movies, music, and merchandise. She starred in 9 to 5 Inches alongside Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, proving she could act as well as sing. Then came Dollywood, her own theme park, which opened in 1986 in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. While other stars were buying expensive yachts, Dolly built a family amusement park in her hometown to help boost the local economy. But success didn't come without challenges. Even someone as kind and humble as Dolly has limits, and over the decades, several people pushed those limits. Here are the most significant conflicts that shaped her career and personal life. The most complicated and painful conflict was with Porter Wagoner, the man who helped launch her career but then tried to control it. Before Dolly became a global icon, Porter was already a huge name in country music. He was a full-on showman with charm and a voice that could touch any heart. By the 1960s, he had his own television show called The Porter Wagoner Show, one of the biggest country music shows in America. When Dolly joined Porter's show, she replaced his previous female vocalist, Norma Jean. Many fans weren't happy about this change at first. People actually booed Dolly on stage and wrote her angry letters. But Porter insisted on keeping her, and Dolly remained gracious, calm, and determined because she had something to prove. It didn't take long for the two to become a hit duo. Their harmonies were electric, and their on-screen chemistry was pure gold. Together, They scored over a dozen top 10 hits. However, behind the smiles, serious tension was building. Porter didn't just want to sing with Dolly. He wanted to control her entire career. He managed her appearances, decided what songs they would record, and had the final say on most business decisions. But Dolly wasn't just a singer with a pretty face. She was a songwriter, a thinker, and a woman with her own vision. She had ambitions that stretched far beyond duet records and guest spots on television shows. For years, Dolly played along, but the more famous she became, the more she wanted to stand on her own. She became increasingly frustrated and began writing songs that didn't fit the Porter and Dolly mold. She wanted creative freedom and, more importantly, control over her own voice and career. She later said that Porter had a hard time thinking of her as his equal. In the beginning, he had given her a platform, but years later, that same platform had become like a prison. By 1973, the tension was unbearable, and in 1974, she left the Porter Wagoner show. To the public, it looked like a friendly parting, but behind closed doors, that was just the beginning of their problems. 5 years after she walked away, Porter came back with lawyers. In 1979, he sued Dolly for $3 million, claiming she had broken their contract. He said she owed him management fees, show expenses, and a cut of her income since leaving the show. Dolly was stunned, always seen Porter as a mentor, even if they didn't part on great terms. This lawsuit felt like betrayal. The situation got ugly with public statements, press coverage, and industry gossip. But Dolly didn't drag him through the mud. Instead, she quietly settled the case out of court. She later said she didn't want to fight. She just wanted to be free. The whole situation took a serious emotional toll on Dolly. Porter had meant something to her, and he had been there at the beginning of her career. That made music history. Together, and yet he couldn't let her go without a fight. In one interview, Dolly explained how she had told Porter she would stay 5 years, but it became 6 years, then 7. He was having a really hard time letting her go because it was going to mess up his show. And they were bound together in so many emotional ways. Their feud wasn't just about money. It was much deeper than that. This revealed a controlling and the possessive side of Porter that Dolly had never seen before, and it reportedly hurt her deeply. Fortunately, time changes things. By the late 1980s, after years of being on bad terms, Porter and Dolly had started talking again. In 2002, Dolly did something that surprised many people. She inducted Porter Wagoner into the Country Music Hall of Fame, on stage. The audience, how much he meant to her, even through their tough times. When Porter was hospitalized in 2007 with lung cancer, Dolly reportedly visited him. Just weeks later, Porter passed away. Dolly was devastated. She held a tribute concert at Dollywood, not for the public or headlines, but for the man who helped launch her dreams, even if he had tried to hold them back. Another significant conflict was with Linda Ronstadt during their collaboration on the album Trio. In the mid-1970s, Dolly, Linda, and Emmylou Harris were already established stars who admired each other's work and dreamed of collaborating. However, conflicting schedules and record label politics kept delaying their plans. It wasn't until 1987 that their first album, titled Trio, finally came out. The album was a huge success. It went platinum, topped the country charts, and even won a Grammy. But while the music was harmonious, the recording sessions were anything but peaceful. Dolly, known for her quick work ethic, preferred to complete songs in 1 or 2 takes. Linda, on the other hand, was a perfectionist who often spent hours trying to get a single vocal part just right. Emmylou Harris tried to play mediator and keep the peace between them. Dolly later revealed that working with Linda was like dealing with someone who loves to live in the studio and work extremely slowly. She even admitted to wanting to yell at Linda countless times. It became clear to everyone that they're working. Styles clashed completely, and tensions were building beneath the surface. Despite the challenges, the trio attempted a second album in 1994. They recorded Trio 2, but label disputes and scheduling conflicts delayed its release. The album eventually came out in 1999. But it was too late. The damage to their relationship was already done. Linda was quite vocal about her frustrations with Dolly's reliability during the project. She criticized Dolly in interviews, stating that she was hard to rely on during recording sessions. Linda claimed that Dolly would often cancel plans or show up late, which frustrated her greatly. She said that Dolly was never on time and was always a little flaky. But it wasn't just about being late. Linda made it clear that she felt Dolly didn't fully respect the process or commitment needed to complete the project properly. Linda felt like Dolly was more concerned with her solo career than the group effort, and it left a bitter taste in their relationship. The tension between them was serious enough that Linda made it known she had no intention of working with Dolly again. She confessed that she felt Dolly's lack of professionalism had spoiled what was supposed to be a joyful collaboration. Years later, despite all the bad feelings, Linda and Dolly showed signs of reconciling, but it wasn't without awkward moments. It's clear that both women probably still held some grudges. And while they aren't openly hostile toward each other, they don't exactly make an effort to rekindle their friendship. One of the most interesting conflicts involved Elvis Presley. Though they never actually worked together, it all centered around Dolly's iconic ballad, "I Will Always Love You." This song, which Dolly wrote in 1973, was deeply personal. It was about her decision to leave her longtime mentor Porter Wagoner and pursue a solo career. The song was released as a single and quickly became a hit, earning her widespread recognition. Dolly didn't know at the time was that Elvis Presley's team had their eyes on the song. The King himself wanted to cover it, and his team was already making moves to make it happen. In the mid-1970s, Elvis was on top of the world and had a reputation for taking other artists' songs and making them his own. When he expressed interest in "I Will Always Love You," Dolly was understandably flattered. However, there was a serious problem. Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, had a reputation for demanding outrageous deals when it came to songs for Elvis to record. Colonel Parker wanted to take at least 50% of the royalties for any song Elvis recorded. This was something Dolly couldn't accept. It wasn't just about the money. It was about respect for her craft and her work. Dolly knew the value of her creation and wasn't about to let someone take advantage of her. She turned Elvis down, telling his manager that this was the most important copyright in her whole publishing company, and she couldn't give up half of it. Dolly has often shared that she felt very hurt about the deal Elvis's team presented to her. Although she admired him as an artist, this deal felt like a trap designed to exploit her. Dolly later revealed that Elvis was very upset by her refusal. According to her, Elvis had loved the song and really wanted to record it. She felt bad for him, but knew that if she gave in, it would set a precedent for other artists and managers to take advantage of her in the future. The situation caused a strain between them, and Dolly later admitted that she didn't think Elvis ever fully forgave her for saying no. In the end, Dolly's decision to hold on to "I Will Always Love You" proved to be one of the best decisions of her career. Eventually, Whitney Houston covered the song and turned it into one of the most successful songs of all time. The success of Houston's version brought the song to a whole new generation and made Dolly millions in royalties. A more recent conflict involved radio personality Howard Stern. In 2008, Stern's team created what they thought was a funny segment by editing together clips from Dolly's audiobook, "My Life and Other Unfinished Business." They used actual recordings of Dolly's voice and spliced together words and phrases to make it sound like she was saying vulgar, racist, and disgusting things. The fake interview made it sound like Dolly insulted other artists and made rude remarks. About her own body and personal life, Dolly was shocked and devastated. She issued a rare and emotional public statement saying she had never been so shocked, hurt, and humiliated in her entire life. She couldn't believe what Howard Stern had done to her and said that in a million years she would never have such vulgar things come out of her mouth. She called what Stern had done extremely vile and even hinted at taking legal action against him. When the backlash hit, Howard Stern didn't apologize or express regret. Instead, he laughed it off, insisting it was just a joke and that people were being too sensitive. To Stern, it was just satire, but to Dolly, it was deeply personal and hurtful. Surprisingly, in 2023, 15 years after the scandal, Dolly shocked fans by appearing on The Howard Stern Show for the first time. She was promoting her rock album, Rockstar, and if there was ever a time to step out of her comfort zone, this was it. Stern was surprisingly respectful during the interview, calling her a legend and complimenting her energy and voice. However, the tension in the room was obvious. It felt like if Dolly hadn't needed to promote her album, she would never have agreed to be on the show. Finally, it was criticism from Jeff Tweety, the frontman of the alternative country band. Wilco, while Tweety acknowledged Dolly's place in music history and her impact on country music, he openly criticized the quality of her lyrics, calling them superficial. He argued that while Dolly's songs may have wide appeal, they lacked the complexity he believed was necessary for great songwriting. In one interview, Tweety compared Dolly to other songwriters who he felt delivered more depth in their work. Even suggested that Dolly's success was more about her persona than the depth of her music. When asked about Parton, he said he loved her, but thought she should have stopped writing songs after Jolene. Reports claimed that Dolly was aware of Tweety's comments and didn't appreciate the criticism. Having always been proud of her work as a songwriter, with many of her songs being deeply personal and reflective of her own life experiences, hearing someone dismiss her work must have been hurtful. Throughout all these conflicts and challenges, Dolly Parton has shown remarkable grace and resilience. She has faced criticism, legal battles, personal betrayals, and professional disappointments, but she has always maintained her dignity and stayed true to herself. Her ability to overcome these obstacles and continue creating music that touches millions of people around the world is what makes her a true icon. While these feuds and conflicts may have caused her pain at the time, also helped shape her into the strong, independent artist she became. Each challenge taught her valuable lessons about the music industry, about standing up for herself, and about the importance of maintaining control over her own career and creative work. Today, Dolly Parton's legacy as both a musician and a person remains largely untarnished, proving that sometimes the best response to conflict is simply to keep being yourself and let your work speak for itself.